Welcome to the Action Over Ideas podcast. Most practice owners don't have an ideas problem, they have an execution problem. This show is for the chiropractors and health practice owners who are done planning and ready to move. Each episode, Billy and Chris take the conversations happening in practices right now and turn them into clear, actionable decisions. Teams, systems, growth, the moves most owners know they need to make, but keep avoiding, delaying, or overthinking. No more waiting for the perfect plan. Decisions first, results follow. Let's get started.
Chris.
Episode 6.
Yes. Topics for today. Let me put it out there straight away, Chris. Most owners blame some level of marketing for their lack of success. Very few, and this is nearly 20 years of coaching chiropractors and healthcare practitioners, very few practitioners and business owners audit how they retain their clients. I mean, they obviously, might be a figure on Clinico about how many appointments, and they can do PVA, but very few do an audit and have a dashboard where they can see specifically and calculate where the gaps are. Okay, because just because you're not retaining people doesn't always mean that it's only this reason or that reason. It could be a number of different reasons, and if we find those gaps, and we can only do that through having an audit and having figures and metrics and everything else. And then the last one is, and I've said this before, you cannot outmarket bad retention. And you can't outmarket lots of different things, but you can't, marketing isn't just a solution to try and fix your retention problem.
Yeah, I'm very excited about this topic.
Yep.
I'm excited to share a little bit more from the associates side as well, how this affects the growth from my point of view. And I'm very intrigued to hear more about some of those suggestions that you made just there, Billy, and your experience on this too.
Yeah.
It's going to be an exciting episode. We're at episode 6 already.
Absolutely. It's gone very quickly. It's been super fun as well.
Yeah. I just feel like there's so many different topics to dive into. We might be at episode 332 one day. Who knows?
You never know. Absolutely. I'll have a lot more grey hair and maybe less hair.
And I'll have some
and you'll
grey
still
hair.
look like, you're in your teens.
Yeah. Love it. All right.
I'm going to open up with something which I think I want the listeners to stew upon and then have their own reflection in their own time after they've listened to this episode. And that is, Chris, if you doubled your leads tomorrow, but your retention stayed the same, would your profit double?
Ooh.
We don't have to answer that. This is more of a reflection. And you know what? It's kind of a bit rhetorical because to a certain extent, I'm kind of leading them into a direction which they're already understanding and knowing. If you doubled your leads tomorrow, like if you could snap the finger or you rub that genie lamp and the genie came out and said, Chris, I'm going to give you one wish for your practice. And you're like, double my leads right now, like consistently. But your retention stayed the same. Would your profit double as well?
It's a great question.
Yeah.
Just let them sit on that one.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
So let's start off with your point of view, because obviously when it comes to building those bridges and the relationships between having great teams, associates, and owners, retention is probably one big part of it, isn't it? Because
hugely.
Quite often, I get these situations where, owners are saying, "Hey, like my PVA is this, and I've done these things, and I've tried to get my associate, but they're still struggling, and their case visit average, or their PVA, or their retentions, whatever metric that they're measuring, is not so great." So, are you seeing that as well?
Yeah, it's very common. And from my point of view too, especially with new grads entering into the profession, I always say that learning how to increase retention means that you're communicating really well to the community and they understand why they are coming in to see you. And I speak with owners and say, if you can teach new grads or even experienced associates how to do this, the associateship's going to be better because they're going to grow, the business grows, and the community understands the message that you're trying to get out there. And I really agree. I was speaking to some marketing people and they say, a lot of the times the messaging is confusing to the public. And when I first came into the profession, I wasn't quite sure what they meant. But now I realize, because when I was just, a patient, say, when I wasn't in the industry, I didn't know what chiropractors did. Like, no idea. So now I can really see it in the associateship cycle. If we can help train our teams more on how to do this, the community gets healthier, the business gets healthier, and the career gets healthier too for the associate. I feel
Yeah.
like it's a win-win for
Yeah.
everyone.
And that's a great point you brought up about confusion, like a confused client, customer, patient, like a confused buyer doesn't buy. They freeze. They have that paradox of choice where they go, well, I've got these choices to make, but I'm really, really confused. I don't really know what to do. And so, like, if we don't have clarity in, well, first of all, if the associate or the chiropractor doesn't have clarity in what they're presenting, clarity in their communication, clarity in what they're providing, certainty around their product and services, and then doing that through a high level of confidence that then emanates the confidence back from the client, then that relationship's not going to happen. And so
Yeah.
one of the key things that I think is really important is that retention is a system. It's not a personality trait. Now,
Ooh.
I'll sort of dive a little bit deeper into that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you can be deadpan, boring, and like just to be monotone and
A
just
robot.
yeah, robot. It's actually, do you know what? It's actually really hard. When I speak with my hands, I speak with a lot of passion and a lot of energy. It's really hard to do the reverse. Do you find that? Like if I'm pretending to be monotone and pretending to be boring, like it's kind of it's difficult, which is not a bad thing. But going back to that whole retention is a system, not a personality trait, and that's really important because a lot of people actually think that, oh, I need to be a certain personality. I need to really be flamboyant. I really need to be this great sort of high energy and to really be, like being able to speak to anyone and everyone. When realistically, good retention, great retention, starts with having really great systems in place. And we sort of spoke about systems in our last episode, but that's really key. Having great systems, having an understanding as to what we're doing with the person going through their journey in our practice, in our business, that allows us to then, show them the value at each point,
Yeah.
and then know also like where are those gaps, if there are gaps when it comes to your attention.
Yeah. So by system, a retention system, are you talking about how they take a new client through their initial process? Are you talking about what they're saying to them when they're adjusting? Tell me a bit more about that, because I'm sure some of the listeners there are, yeah, pondering that question as well.
Yeah. Um, actually, it's all of that. It's
Yeah.
absolutely all of that. It goes back to well, first of all, your conversions and your attention go hand in hand. Often what happens is that people think conversions are very much front end. Okay, so like if you speak to a lot of coaches, a lot of chiropractors out there, when they start to define and start to give scripts and systems around conversions, it's really like the front end. It's like
Yeah.
initial appointment, day one, day two, etc., and then recommendation. And then for some reason, the conversion part of the whole equation starts to then go missing. Okay. Whereas for me, I look at conversion as something that is ongoing. All right. So
Mm.
whether it's your first visit, second visit, or it's visit number 100, you are still needing to do some level of conversion. Or what I would say, like conversion can sometimes sound a little bit too sort of I'm converting you. It's more about enrollment, and it's more about,
Yeah.
you know, connecting yesterday's, or not yesterday, last visit's dot to today's dot, which is today's visit, and then connecting today's visit to their next visit. So there's this kind of flow-on effect. So, and I really truly believe that retention is all part of that, and that when we rely so much on new clients and we rely too much on the front end, then we forget the fact that your retention revenue is what builds that solid foundation and allows your business to be thriving and not just surviving. because if you think about just the every, like every day, every week, every month, what you're doing is you're building that retention revenue over time. Like not everyone's going to be able to keep 100% of their clients, and that's, it's impossible. But if you can keep the bulk of your people because you're showing them value, they understand tangibly why they're coming in. That's helping you build that retention foundation, that retention revenue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really like your use of the word enrollment
Mm.
in that too.
Yeah.
That's a great. I haven't heard that before.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, enrolling people into the process of helping them get better outcomes for their health, and
yeah.
it goes as long as people go through the journey, depending on how many visits they need. It's
Mm.
always a part of that enrollment. That's
Absolutely.
great.
Yeah. And like, it's there's nothing wrong with conversions. I mean, I still say it because it's easy and it's an
Yeah,
easy picture to kind of like illustrate.
yeah,
But I do like the word enrollment because it's a little bit softer, but it's also, when you think about it, like if I continually enroll someone on their journey and providing value, people can see that. Whereas if I'm trying to constantly convert you, from one
yeah.
visit to another, there's a bit of harshness to that. Yeah.
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 And I'm just thinking as you're sharing this, I spend a lot of times looking at, well, this chiropractor over here, this associate's doing really well. This associate in another environment is struggling. And I'm so fascinated on what's the difference. Because
Mm.
I truly believe that there's so many talented chiropractors out there. We just have to find the right environment.
Yeah.
And part of that is that the people that are busier are much better at communicating than
Mm.
delivering the adjustments, of course, but that communication
Yeah.
side, and they have higher retention. And I'm
Yeah.
just putting that together now. It's a key factor in what owners look for when hiring, because it's a great attribute to have. They know that they can generate X amount of new people coming in, and someone with a higher enrollment rate or conversion rate,
Mm.
obviously they're going to stick more. Then
Yeah.
those people that go along the whole journey, they refer more people in because they're feeling great. They've lost their headaches, lost their lower back pain. And I can really see how that ties into an associateship doing better as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it goes back to consumer buying behavior. It's very, very well known that people generally will buy from emotion. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
So a good example would be a busy, stressed out mum who has been suffering from chronic migraines for many, many years, got 3 kids to juggle as well as work, dropping them off at school, sports, missing work sometimes because she's got these problems, puts herself low on the priorities list and doesn't do her Pilates or yoga because she's not feeling great, feels guilty, like all those different things, right? That's very emotional.
yeah,
That's and then I go see Dr. Chris, and Chris presents me with a solution that fits me, and I'm like, yes, like please enroll me into this process because this is what I need. Right. Then I sort of tell people that you almost need to light a metaphoric sort of fuse because you've only got a short period of time where the emotion fuse will run out and it switches from right side of the brain to left side of the brain to then become analytical. So, people now need tangibility, logic around their choices. And so you can't just rest on the emotion because remember, the other thing is that this mother, after it could be after just a week because like sometimes it can happen so quickly, or it could be in their initial phase of care that they start feeling amazing. The migraines and headaches that they've been
yes,
suffering from are going. They've got more energy. They're happier. They're like, hey, Dr. Chris, you know what? Like I've been back at Pilates. I feel like I haven't had to take time off work, which makes me even more secure and certain about my future. All those different things. The emotional part about it has
yeah,
changed. Now, Tony Robbins, we love Tony Robbins. He always talks about that people are either moving towards pleasure or they're moving away from pain. That can be a dominant. More often than not, it's a combination, but but generally there's a dominance. We know that in society, a lot more people move away from pain than they do pleasure. And
yeah.
that's a whole, why people don't do anything until they're on the deathbed, or they don't do anything until something really grave happens to their health. So what we also understand is that now that this mother has moved away from that emotional pain, like unless there's someone that goes, you know what, I don't ever want to go back there and I want to move towards more pleasure,
Mm,
it can sometimes click back into, well, look, that I'm okay for now. Like I'm great. Like I'm feeling fantastic. The emotion's now gone. Or the emotion's different. Like the pain emotion's gone. I like now the doctor, now you have to then logically, tangibly provide me solutions and value that's going to click over to that part of my brain that goes, you know what, even without the pain or even with less pain, even that I'm feeling great now, why should I continue? Why is it necessary for me to continually be enrolled into care? And how is
yeah.
it going to benefit me in the long term?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that sounds like it's also coming from a very authentic approach as
Mm.
well, which
Yeah.
is another thing I see some of the busiest chiropractors, whether owner or associate, they go through that process being very authentic, going,
Yeah.
hey, these are my best recommendations.
Yeah.
This is how I can help you. And
Mm.
it's that word that you use, it's like enrolling them to go,
Yeah.
I'm here for you if you need.
Yeah.
But I think there's such a big gap. And one of the things I see is, well, I don't know if you've heard this too, is, I don't want to follow a script.
Mm.
I don't want to follow a script when it comes to my communication because I don't want to be, like a robot or like everyone else. I don't know what you think about this, but I definitely find in associateships, when we're training people, a script can be very useful, especially for a new grad at the start to get
Yeah.
used to what to say.
Yeah.
But it's something that doesn't have to stay there forever. And everyone has their own way of moving things around
Yeah.
to suit themselves. But I do see resistance there.
Scripts are
Someone,
look, scripts are so important.
yeah,
Yes. Like there's a number of people out there that just dislike scripts because and I think that there's a reason behind that because
agreed.
it could be that like I don't want to be like a robot. I don't want to be like, like I'm myself. I have my own personality. Why do I need to be like you?
Yeah,
Uh, like, are we just providing a cookie cutter like solution to everyone?
yeah,
But the thing is that without scripts, then we don't know what to do and say, especially like, like I'm not born with the communication skills and the ability to be able to tell someone about what I found on their x-rays and what I'm going to be doing and like the recommendation that I'm providing, the clinical recommendations and the health guidance that I'm providing, that comes from a script. Now it's not like that I got like this yellow pages of these scripts at chiropractic college and
stacked
then
up.
but someone had to tell me and I had to learn them and I had to like cognitively process a level of scripting so that I could follow a process.
Yeah,
Right. So why wouldn't you fast track that by getting someone to provide you with a success script? Now, like as I said, you don't have to be a robot. You can take a script and you can use it to your advantage and bring in your personality. There might be words that just not aren't you. Like for example, like if there might be a description or there might be something that you're like, and I like I would also say that if an associate doesn't feel that that's the right word, then you can go to um, the owner or your boss and sort of say, look,
yeah,
would it be okay if I change this? Because just for me, I don't say that word in my normal life and it feels weird. Can I
yeah,
change it? I'm sure that conversation, which is a very healthy and very, very valuable conversation to have, that they'll go, yeah, cool. Like actually, maybe there's chat GPT and synonyms. Yeah. What can we replace it? And you go, actually, look, that's a word that I would normally use. So you can do that as well. So
yeah,
a script is just a lens or a blueprint of what you can do. And the
yeah,
great thing about scripts is that in the same way that I can go to all beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onion, or sesame seed bun, like, and the last time I had a McDonald's hamburger was I can't remember, but that's been ingrained in me. Now, like, yes, I learned it off an ad many many years
yeah,
ago when I was a kid, but that's a script. I learned it, and I still
correct.
remember it. It's been quite impactful on me. So that at 53, I can still remember it. But that's the important thing is that scripts, once we have them, they become us and
Mm.
then it becomes our script. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so fascinating. From my point of view, I see a lot of different quote unquote scripts. Like every practice does it differently.
Mm,
And people ask me all the time, and I'm like, hey, I don't know. I'm not a chiropractor. I've never been in the room doing it. All I
mm,
know that associateships that have some sort of guideline scripting to teach their teams are doing better.
yeah.
And I would say that links right into the topic of today with retention
Yeah.
because they're
Yeah.
able to communicate that better consistently so they can look back over their first 6 months and go, oh, okay, maybe I need to fix this part up here
Yeah.
because it's showing me that.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Mm,
we're going to give, before we go into our next part, I'm going to give some tips. All right. Because I think that
yes, fire away.
people are probably going, well, stop talking about psychology and brain and buying behavior, which I think is really important. Give us, so I always say this on the Action Over Ideas podcast, and that is downstream problems, downstream situations are upstream solutions or upstream, processes that can be fixed. And so retention is looking at along that stream, like, what's the situation that's happening. And as you know, I love analogies. And basically, what it is, it's like retention is where people are starting to fall out, and that could be early in their care. It could be later. It could be for a number of reasons, or it could be multiple reasons. And so it's almost like you are getting a bike tube, and like blowing it up and then putting it underwater to have a look at where the holes are. All right.
Yeah.
So, but if you don't put it underwater and you're just kind of hearing the sound, you're going, oh, well, we're having a retention problem. We're not retaining our clients. We can see that our PVA's dropped. We can see that, we're getting some great leads. We're getting people coming through, but we're not actually getting retention. But we need to actually put the tube under the water to actually locate where the actual holes are. And that could be one, or it could be a number
Mm,
of holes. And so that strategy is the tip. And that is, first of all, like stop, reflect, and then ask yourself, first of all, why do you feel, so not why, but where do you see patients are dropping out? All right.
yeah.
And it could be a number of points on that enrollment journey. Okay. And it could be that, and do it as a team. I think it's really important because your CAs will also know. And CAs are a massive part of the retention aspect of it. We'll probably need to do like 2-3 episodes of retention, but for now, just understand that it's more powerful when we actually enroll our whole team to do this. Ask, where are people dropping out, and where are we getting these leaks? And
Yep.
so we can start to sort of see, we get people that drop out, and we actually have a number of people that stay for the initial intensive or the initial phase of care, and then when we start to do like enrollment into, say, wellness or maintenance care, we also have a dropout there. So you can start to see when you put the tube under the water where the bubbles, okay? Because then you can work on those. Because if you go, oh, well, it's actually, we're finding that a lot of people, they go through their initial phase of care, and then when we get to their point where we can now enroll them into wellness or maintenance, they drop out. It's like, okay, great. Well, there must be some processes, communications, clarity, certainty around that point of the enrollment process. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect
Yeah.
sense. You're saying you have to be able to identify where to then
Mm.
fix the problem instead of just not identifying it and trying to fix all the problems that you think are
Yeah.
happening, but we're not sure.
Yeah,
Love that.
absolutely. And then the other thing also is to start to have a look at what are your hero, and I say hero, but like, what are your main appointments, uh, you know, uh, points, or like, pillars in that journey. Okay. And I'll explain that. So obviously
Yeah.
your initial visit is one massive sort of hero appointment sort of pillar. And then,
Yep.
and for people that do day one and day two, report of findings and that. And then another one would be reviews. Another one would be like, there's a number of elements to that.
Yep.
Um, and it could also go back to your onboarding process. It could be the first phone call. It could be, if I'm calling you up and wanting to make an appointment, your CA, your admin staff, take that phone call. That could be one of the main pillars, right?
Yep.
And so we need to start to go, what are the outcomes and the expectations that we want from each of these, pillars. And so we can start to have a look, because in many ways, it could be that we could look at where those main parts, of that enrollment process, is that we can actually start to look at where the leaks are, and often it's those
Mm.
areas. It's not like it's visit 23. All right, like it's like we tend to visit 23 when we if we look at our stats and we go, actually visit 23 is right at the time where we're transitioning from initial intensive or initial phase of care to now maintenance or wellness. Yeah.
Yeah, love that.
Mm.
Completely agree. And it will help, especially, and again, I'm just coming from the associateship point of view. Anyone listening as owners who has someone who's under 3 years experience, this is critical for them and their confidence and also for the community as well and helping
Mm.
them get their best results. And we need to show our teams how to do this. And I loved how you mentioned before, do it in front of the team and let's all sit down and collaborate together.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Great.
Love it.
Very good.
Gosh, there's been so many things. And I think that what are your thoughts? We'll tease the listeners a little bit. I think retention. Well, I love talking about retention. I can talk for retention for days, right? Because there's
I can tell.
so many parts to it. And I think that down the track, we're not going to do it now, but down the track, we might even do maybe some retention episodes. What are
Yeah.
your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I like that idea. Well, if you're listening to this now, you should jump on our private Facebook page and throw in, we'll put some polls up around this as we go and let us know if that would be useful because I think retention can be unpacked at so many levels. I liked how you said CAs are a part of it, the team environment, the whole ecosystem. I think that'd be very exciting. So let us know, guys.
I know. And
Yeah.
if I can give a big plug to my mate, your mate, Martin Harvey, going back to that whole clicking over from the brain where it's about buying for emotion to then buying because of tangible logical reasoning. Martin does a great thing in his communication seminars and his teachings around the sort of the three levels of health belief. Like he talks about the three P's. I think it's pain is the first level, and then the second level is prevention, and then the third level is performance. And one of the things that I think is really important is that a lot of chiropractors believe or feel that it's their job to paradigm shift someone from that first level up until like you hear this like someone might come in because they're feeling pain and they want to get their pain fixed, and then
Yeah.
they feel like it's their job to then like, okay, Chris, I really would love to enroll you on this journey where I can paradigm shift you so that you move from just thinking about pain to now looking at chiropractic as performance. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think that's a really important part of the journey. However, it's not really our job to paradigm shift anyone. Paradigm shifting happens individually. Like, you
Yeah.
have to paradigm shift yourself. And I also think it's kind of like we shouldn't talk about religion and talk about politics, but we will. Like it's like if you're like in America, if you're a Republican voter, doesn't matter what I say to you, you're not going to turn to Democrat, are you? Right? So
Mm, mm,
like to paradigm shift you to being a Democrat, it's just going to be impossible.
mm.
And so I think it's really important to understand that, like with that whole flipping from someone buying from emotion to now needing to understand and to see logic in why they continue and to be under care, those three levels that Martin talks about, the pain, the prevention, and the performance, are really, really vital. Yeah. So,
It's amazing. Yeah,
mm,
definitely a massive shout out. I've heard a lot of associates and practice owners have gotten so much great advice and
mm,
implement it into their practices from him. So completely agree with that. That
yeah.
sounds really, really good. And it all comes together, doesn't it?
Oh,
All comes together. Um,
absolutely.
yeah, well, fully action packed there, Billy. Thank you for sharing all of that knowledge there as well. Let's get on to our stop starts and our success metrics.
Okay.
Are you wanting to take this one? What are you thinking?
Do you want to do one? Have you got one? Have you got one that for associates in particular?
Yeah, I do. I do. So I've got something to start. So I'm jumping ahead a little bit,
Yeah.
but to start for associates and practice owners is getting some attention around where those holes are, like you were saying, and sitting down this week or whenever you're listening to this and having an open conversation around how we can fix it together as a team. And this takes courage, vulnerability if you're the associate or even as the owner to start this conversation. Because at the end of the day, if we're not communicating the amazing things that we can create within practices to the public, then we're letting them down.
Yeah.
So I really find that if we're able to have the conversation, then that's the first step. So I encourage every owner and every associate listening to this to put their hand up this week and just bring it up with the other party and start having a conversation. Maybe go do some of Martin's stuff, reach
Mm.
out to you, Billy, like go get help around it because it's a win for everyone. The
Yeah.
community, the associate, and the owner. So that's my start. What do you got
Ah.
for stops? Anything for stops, Billy?
Do you know what? I have one that's sort of both start and stop.
Ah, you're cheating. You're cheating.
All right. So the first one, and it's a bit of a harsh reality. Stop sticking your head or keeping your head in the sand when it comes to retention. Okay. And like just like start to really dive into your metrics and having a look. So it's just one metric of your PVA doesn't count, all right? Or if it's, even just one metric on like, well, we have this many new clients come through and then we've got this many people that drop out, etc. Like start really having a look, like use that analogy, like blow up that tube, put it underwater, and then have a look at where those gaps are. Okay. Because here's the thing, it's about percentages. It's about compounding. All right. You can be positively compounding or you could be negative compounding. It's kind of that whole, anyone that's spoken to me or, coaches me, I take them through the above the line, below the line sort of framework. But like basically above the line is compounding. So
Yeah,
therefore, if I said to you, Chris, if you every week put $10 away in the bank account, what happens over time is that you get the compounding effect. And that happens when it comes to with anything as well, when it comes to like choosing to make better choices, eating healthier, going to see a chiropractor, thinking healthy, having positive, impact on certain things in life. It all compounds. But we also have if we don't do those things, we have negative compound, meaning that
yeah,
if you're like, stuff you, Billy, I don't care about saving $10 every month. Like right now, whether you put $10 in the bank account or it doesn't, it's not going to make any difference, does it? Like, it's like, yeah, I've got $10. I don't have $10. But let me revisit you in 5 years down the track. And if you haven't put in $10 per month, you are going to have that negative compounding, like you're missing out on all that money. Whereas if you had, you'd be like, yeah, happy days, we're going to open up some champagne. Right? So
yeah,
the key thing is to look at all those different aspects of your of your enrollment process journey and having a look at where are those retention situations, because even 1%, if you compound all of them, they will add up. And so,
yeah,
like if you increase like anywhere between 5 to 10% increase in your retention, that increases your lifetime value. Okay. It
yeah,
increases your referrals. Because why? Because you have more people that are going to refer you. If you have less people, you retain less people, they're not going to refer, are they? Your revenue stabilizes. And I spoke about that whole, RR, that retention revenue. You want to
yeah,
build a great solid base. Like if you think about every month, every quarter, that you can forecast that in my bank or in the going through the practice is going to be this level of retention revenue, then that grows and you become a lot more secure and stable. And then anything that comes in as new clients, as new enrollments, that's just cream on the top. And that's how you grow. That's that growth as you move forward. And then marketing pressure drops. We all know we obviously need marketing. Obviously, like a really balanced business will always have marketing. But
definitely.
marketing for new clients always I can't speak, always costs a lot more than retaining and providing value for your current clients to be able to stay under care, refer, and to continue enjoying their experience. And so marketing pressures will also drop, which means that you can then be really more control with what you do with your marketing, but also for many of your clients, Chris, that they can now expand by getting more associates because the marketing can now cater for that expansion.
Yeah, yeah. And just on that topic as well, I feel like it should always be, yes, we have markers that help us grow our businesses. It's really important, but
Mm.
it's also very unfair to call them up and go like, oh, hey, it's not working. I don't have this many leads this week, blah, 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 where there's so many other avenues to growing the business, which, what we're talking about now is retention,
Yeah,
that some of the amazing marketing companies out there, they're doing great jobs to get X
yeah,
amount of leads in, but we need to do it across the board
yeah,
because we don't want to rely on one. So I think your statement around, looking at that, it's a added, like it adds to the business, but
yeah,
also we're focusing on retention, we're focusing
yeah,
on some referrals, some community things. They're the best, from my point of view, best associateships
yeah.
because, like you said, they can point the marketing to the next associate that comes in and they're expanding more. They're doing everything.
Yeah,
I love that.
absolutely. And I also think, I mean, there are certain people out there that might sort of say, oh, well, like, why do you need marketing agencies and like they're a waste of money and etc. And look, obviously, there are coaches that can waste your money.
Hmm,
There's lots of different things. So I'm not saying that like it's just because it's only marketing that wastes your money. Like marketing agencies have a amazing place because they
agreed.
have the expertise, they have a scalability because of knowledge,
Yep,
and also that they probably have some good hopefully some good track records. Now, is it right for everyone? No. But if you don't know anything about Facebook ads, you don't know how to do Google ads, or you don't know how to do certain levels of marketing, then maybe asking someone to help you is going to, like accelerate you really, really far. And
agreed.
it's like I can change the water. Okay, so this is how bad I am when it comes to cars. I know how to change a tire, which is like a wheel on a tire. And I can change the water, as in not change, but I can fill the water for my
Yeah,
windscreen wipers. But you asked me to like go and change the oil or to like look at if I need to the timing belts like worn out. I mean,
there's no way.
I could YouTube it, and I might be able to get away with it. But what's to say that like I drive down the road and the whole engine collapses, that kind of stuff as well. And I kind of think that that's a sort of similar that a lot of people go, oh well, look, I don't want to pay the expense of a marketing agency or a coach or for recruitment, etc. Because I can do it on my own, and that's okay.
Hmm,
And absolutely, please, like in sometimes that's the best learning, like trying to do it on your own. But if you
definitely.
reach a point where it's like I've tried and I've gotten okay results or no results, or it's all like I'm actually finding it even harder and more difficult, that's when it's important to kind of reach out and ask. Now, for
Couldn't
many
agree
of
more.
us and people that we know, even for us, like I always offer like the opportunity for people to have a chat to me. Like I don't sort of say, oh well, if the only way you can chat to me is like if you pay me. Like because of who I am and what I do, I need to be open. My door is always open, and so I'm sure that people listening here, a lot of them will probably go, actually, that's true. Like Billy's always been, open to having conversation and answering questions. And the key thing is just ask. Go and find someone, ask them. I'm sure that there's lots of people there. But going back to that whole thing about marketing, look, there is definitely like a huge value in being able to accelerate your ability to market and to help you with your attention down the track as well.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Like,
Mm.
most businesses are small business owners. You can't be good at everything. So I definitely agree.
Yeah.
That's great, Billy. Success metric, last point before we wrap up this episode. Do you have
Uh,
anything in mind?
Success metric. Well, the
Mm,
success metric, I believe, goes back to the start and stop, and that is that you begin by like even if you do it once a month to begin with, because consistency counts. All right.
yeah,
The consistency counts. So rather you do it once a month than never do it, or do it once every, like sporadically. But I would say it would be good for you to do it, several times a month, just so you can
yeah,
look at your data. But your success metric is for you, whether you're an associate, whether you're the CEO, is to look at the data and start to like find out where are those gaps. All right. So, and if any of our listeners need help, reach out to us. If you're like, look, what's the best way to look at your metrics? What metrics do I need to have a look at? Or like, where can I find those bubbles or, the gaps? Let us know. Like, reach out to us because we can help you as well. And maybe we can as we said earlier, we could do it in like a number of episodes just on retention, just on the how to when it comes to that. But for now, yeah, the success metric is just to go and look at your metrics and find out, because they can tell you a lot.
Yeah.
Like even as like as I say, we could go on for hours. Even as simple as the stuff that your CAs do. When it comes to missed appointments, when it comes to reschedules, cancellations, like so things that you don't control because you're in the adjusting area, in the adjusting room, etc., doing the work. And then like there's a lot of stuff in the background that has a direct correlation and a direct attachment to how well you retain your clients as well.
Yeah, love it. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom there, Billy. This has been great. More
Yeah.
analogies. Geez, that must mean it's a good episode when I get some
Absolutely.
more analogies.
Yeah.
Far out.
I
How
think I
good.
think the day that I run out of analogies is
We're
actually going to
done.
be a sad day. It's a sad. We're done. We're done. We're finished.
Action
on
over
onto on
ideas.
onto another podcast.
Yeah, yeah. We just close up shop.
Yeah,
It's been
exactly.
great. Thank you so much for everyone listening in, tuning in. Find us on all the usual platforms. Send us messages. As we say every time, we're looking for feedback,
Yeah.
different topics. We hope that you found this useful, and we will
Yeah.
see you on the next one.
Yeah. So Spotify, YouTube, and then also just search Action Over Ideas podcast on Facebook, and then ask to jump in and join our Facebook group. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good. I'll
All right.
see you on the next one, Billy.
Cheers. See ya.
See you guys.
That's a wrap on today's episode of the Action Over Ideas podcast. If something you heard today made you think, that's awesome, but thinking isn't enough. Pick one thing from today's conversation and do something with it this week. If this episode added value, share it with a fellow practice owner who needs to hear it. And we'll see you next episode. Decisions first, results follow.